WhisykJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American in Germany tasting rare and exotic whiskeys. Today I have Bushmills Irish whiskey Caribbean rum cask finish 40%, $19.99 over here in euros. And over here I have the Dewar's True Scotch 8-year-old Caribbean smooth blended Scotch whiskey for 23 to 24 euros 90. Both of these 40%, both of these have coloring added, both of these are chilled filtered, and both of these were finished in rum casks. Yay! So the Bushmills, very interesting. This has a certain proportion of single malt. How much, I do not know. And this single malt was actually finished, for how long, I do not know, in rum casks that were used at least 7 years in the Caribbean beforehand. Now, we can actually thank our master blender, Helen Mulholland, for this wonderful example here. So the whiskey is the typical standard Bushmills. We have an ex-bourbon, we have an ex-Oloroso sherry. Bam, put them together. All right, thank you very much. And then you have the grain. Now, Bushmills themselves do not produce grain whiskey. They do produce triple distilled single malt whiskey, but there is no column still there to produce grain. Where do they get the grain from? Well, at the moment, there are basically 3 places in Ireland that produce grain. The youngest is Great Northern Distillery. Don't think so. Then we have Cooley, since Beam Suntory took over. Don't think so. So we have long-lasting contracts with Middleton. Middleton needs a lot of grain for one simple reason, for their Jameson. The Jameson needs grain, and Bushmill needs grain as well. So every time you just read Irish whiskey, think it's blended. If it says Irish whiskey single malt, then you know it's single malt. Yay, no single malt, no single malt. So the same thing over here. Dewar's, Chevis Regal have a lot of interesting, nice distilleries, but they have no grain distillery. So they have to trade or they have to buy the grain. Where do they get it from? We don't know either. But we do know that they use interesting Caribbean casks as well. So I have to actually thank one of my super fans. Super fans are the people who support me. Roy says barflies, Ralphie says Patreons or something like that. I say super fans. People support me either here on YouTube or by Patreon. Marco, the Sea Lord, he used to be a naval sailor. He actually recommended this duel, or this battle, the Dewar's Caribbean versus the Bushmill. Thank you very much for that great little suggestion there, which I very, very happily followed. So both of these have screw caps. So there are some people out there that say the life is too short for bad whiskey. Totally agree. I've tasted my share of the bad whiskey and I tried to warn you about that. Now, cheaper whiskeys do not automatically mean worse whiskeys, and more expensive whiskeys definitely does not mean that it's actually better. So what we need is people we can trust to say, hey, what are their opinions? What can be recommended? Maybe you can find someone, a blogger online. Maybe you can find another whiskey tuber online that actually recommends things, and you have a similar taste, and if you can find them, try them. So this I did a review on just a few weeks ago. I gave this a B-. I really, really like this. Unfortunately, the availability of Smooth 8 over here in Europe at the moment is extremely limited. Dewar's is the best-selling, one of the best-selling, if not the best-selling, blended Scotch in America, and they have America as their target market, and so this is going to America first, and somehow one day it might find its way back to Europe. That's the way things are at the moment. Now, Bushmills, on the other hand, yes, America is a great market, but also Europe is a great market. Now, the interesting thing about this is many of you know the YouTuber called Horst from Whisky.com. His company, Whisky.com, Whisky.de, had the exclusive rights, depends on when you watch the video, from May until end of July 2021 to sell this whiskey in Germany. I have no idea why Bushmills distributing partners in Germany allowed this online retailer to have the exclusive rights to this whiskey for those 3 months, so May, June, July, but they did. And it's priced at €19.90. In Ireland, this same whiskey goes for €30. So it's not just the difference in VAT, it's not just the difference in the excise taxes, it's actually the difference in the margins. So some of those companies in Ireland are just taking a much, much higher cut. Celtic Whiskey Shop, €30. Irish Whiskey Shop, €30. O'Brien's, €30. If we go to Whiskey Base in the Netherlands, $22.50. If we go to Germany, $19.90. All right, so that's 50% more of a price. That's a lot of a difference. Even at Masters of Malt, it's only £25. And so that's also a couple euros less. But Germany's, wow. I mean, come on, that's a great, great price. And thank you very much, whiskey.de, the whiskey store, for this great price here on this whiskey. All right, on the nose, I like this. This is the typical Bushmills smell with an added rum moment on top. So for me, Bushmills often smells a little bit like 7-Up. A little bit of a lime and a little bit of a lemon mix. It's a very, very light and a very, very bright tasting, or a very bright aroma for me. And on top of that, there's a little bit of a sugar, and it's almost like a baked banana type of moment here. Very, very nice. Now over here, the Dewar's. This is much darker, much richer. I prefer the Bushmills on the nose. There's almost like a tiny, 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 tiny little bit of maybe a peated whiskey in here. And the rum doesn't shine through like it shines through here. This is definitely a good whiskey, but this on the nose is a tiny little bit better for me personally. It has a little bit of like a cookie dough moment, which this doesn't. This is very bright. This is lemon sherbet bright, and this is cookie dough. Very interesting, the differences here. And the rum is subtle. Here the rum is more in the forefront. All right, let's try. Cheers. I like the brightness of this whiskey. I like the grain that comes through. There's a high percentage of grain. I would guess 20% malt, 80% grain here. And yet the malt still has a lot of that rum character that shines through it. Very, very well done. But it's thin. It's a thin whiskey. Now, this is a whiskey where I would go, hey, you have friends over. They're not connoisseurs. They're not using Glen cans. They're using tumblers. They want to throw an ice cube in there. Bam. They want to mix it. This is the drink you pull out. You do not pull out your Glendronach 21 and say, hey, try this with your Coca-Cola. This is the stuff you have ready for them, and this is something you can use on just a nice little warm summer evening and drink it without having to think about all the tasting notes and everything else that's going on. Very, very nice. This is a C++, B-, type of whiskey for me, right on that threshold here. I did give this a B- in my original video. Let's see if it still is. Oh, cleanse the palate. The comparison of the viscosity, at least the mouth feel, is amazing. This is a blended Scotch. So I'm going to guess this is 60% grain, 40% malt. I'm going to guess this is 80% grain and 20% malt. Yeah, exactly. And this I like better. This tastes better. This has more of a earth is not right. Has more of a caramel type of a little bit of banana in there, and a whole lot of sweetness and maltiness. It's a goodness. I really, really like this. This is still a B- on my books. Now, this does cost, at least in Germany, this is a lower priced product. People are writing all over, in Spain, this costs $14, 14 euros. I was like, holy cow. I'm paying 24, 23, and they're paying 14 in Madrid. And so this could actually be the cheaper product, depends on where you are. This goes, as I said, for 30 euros in Ireland. I think this is actually a lower price in Ireland. Let's see if I can find a price for this in Ireland. Good. At least over in the Masters of Malt, this is 27 pounds. This is 25 pounds. If I go to the Netherlands, this is 19 euros, and this here is 23 euros. And so you notice it depends on distribution. It depends on the shop they're selling at there, but they're almost the same price. One might be a little bit more, might be a little bit less than the others. So they're very, very comparable. And at that price point, I would prefer this any day of the week. Now this is bright and this is a little bit watery and this has a lot more of the rum moment, but this is something which actually has the feeling, the taste, and the experience of what Scotch can and should be with a rum finish. All right, my question of the day is which one would you prefer and why? And second of all, which rum cask finish can you recommend? And the very last question is, I'm doing more than one a lot at the moment, which whiskey under $30, 30 euros, 30 pounds can you recommend? It can be anything. It can be a bourbon, it can be a single malt, it can be a blend, it can be Irish, it can be Japanese, it can be Canadian. But what whiskey under 30 euros would you say, bam, buy it, you can't go wrong? Thank you very much for watching. WhisykJason here. Thank you very much for subscribing and liking, and thank you very much for sharing. Tell others about this crazy guy over in Europe tasting a lot of rare and exotic whiskeys, but every once in a while I have a couple things that are just coming new to Germany that I like to share with you as well. All the best. See you soon. WhisykJason. Bye-bye.